Well, this message will be correspondingly short. We took time for the presentation we gave earlier out of the sermon time. So the Wilhelm children should have been here this week because, yeah, they would have been happy with the length of the sermon. From Genesis to Revelation, the theme that runs through the Bible is one of God's love for His people and His desire for them, all of them, to come to Him. In Genesis, God promised Abraham that through him all nations on earth will be blessed. Revelation 7 verses 9 to 10, it says, "After this I looked, and behold, a great multitude that no one could number, from every nation, from all tribes and peoples and languages, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed in white robes with palm branches in their hands, and crying out with a loud voice, 'Salvation belongs to our God who sits on the throne and to the Lamb.'" That tells us that one day there will be people from around the world, not only from every nation, but from every people group. They will be there before the throne of God. And Matthew 14:24 says, "And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come." So if you're ready for the Lord to return, get busy, because not all the nations have been reached. Joshua Project research shows that there are about 17,000 people groups in the world, and still around 3,000 with no believers and no current witness among them. We better get busy. But how does that happen, and what is your part and my part in making this happen? Is there just one way to rescue the nations from here in southern Minnesota? Or can we all have a part in God's call? Let's look at and unpack some scriptures. Matthew 29, 19 to 20. We read that during our presentation earlier. "Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you, and surely I am with you always to the very end of the age." And Shirley's not even here today. I'm sorry. Bad joke. God asks us to go, follow Him into the nations. This can be a short or long term, and it can be as hard as, I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble with my right eye this morning. This can be a short or long term, and it is not as hard as it may seem. All you need is a willing spirit, a passport, and the Holy Spirit, and some means of transportation. Working in Turkey, we saw people on short-term mission trips aging from 6 months to the very early 90s. We know long-term workers in their mid-80s, and they have seen many babies born into the mission field. And you don't need to be an evangelist. God uses all of our gifts to reach people for Him. Acts 1 verse 8 says, "But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you, and you will be my witness in Jerusalem and in all of Judea and Samaria and to the ends of the earth." Let's look at this and see what it is saying to us via the Eldred translation. "But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you, and you will be my witnesses in Dodge Center, or Pine Island, or Wanamingo, or Kilkenny, or Waseca, or Sargent, and all Minnesota and America, and to the ends of the earth." Lately, there's been so much controversy over the immigration issue, both legal and otherwise, and what to do about the problem. I find that humorous in a nation that made up of immigrants, whose motto is Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore, send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. But I want to stay away from the political end of things and look at what is God doing. I see God bringing the nations to us. We no longer have to go overseas to reach out to the people of Somalia, Guatemala, Sierra Leone, Vietnam, or even Turkey. They are now our next door neighbors, our co-workers, our kid's soccer coach, on and on. And there are ways to minister to them, as the Lindberghs are doing through Pablo, teaching English using the Bible and serving the immigrants in other practical ways. When we lived in northern Wisconsin, we worked with the Somali immigrants up there, teaching them English, helping them to learn the American culture, and helping them to get to the doctor and learning how to receive services, etc. You can serve the immigrants in your community through formal means such as Pablo, or you can befriend them as their neighbors, like Jeff and Tova did when they lived in Arizona. Or you can ask them about that after the service. You can do like Joyce has done and serve at the prison or the soup kitchen, where people from our nation and around the world can be reached. Romans 10 tells us everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. Then it asks you a question. How then can they call on the one they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one of whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? It goes on to tell us how we can be part of that, how we can be part of making that happen with another question. And how can anyone preach unless they are sent? And who is the sender? Anyone? Yes, the church, you. How can you do that? Through making sure people are properly trained and sent out, through prayer, financial support, and through contact with your missionary. When we were in the field, we saw that some supporting churches, individuals, did this very well, and those that didn't. People in the field need contact from back home. Someone to check in on them, to pray for them, to be financially supportive, and then to them, and so that they can do what God has called them to do. We were blessed by Bible Lutheran, our congregation, Pastor Norm, in that regard. So thank you. Now that we are back, find a missionary to support. Oh, and you can still keep supporting us because we're still living on a little bit of support. Psalm 96:3 says, declare the glory among the nations, his marvelous deeds among all the peoples. Or in the words of the Minnesota pastor John Piper, missions exist because worship doesn't. Worship is ultimate, not missions, because God is ultimate, not man. When this age is over and the countless millions of the redeemed fall on their faces before the throne of God, missions will be no more. Missions exist because worship doesn't. Worship is ultimate, not missions, because God is ultimate, not man.